Oh, today we have 7 Hz Eternal. I almost said 7 Hz Timeless, but no, this is the Eternal, the red, blazing, hot, sexy looking IEM right here. This guy has a lot to live up to, coming straight after the legendary Timeless that we all know and that we all love. So in today's video, we're gonna break this down, the sound, the comparison to its competitors, and I'll tell you at the end of the video if it's worth getting or not. Let's go. Hey friends, Timmy back to a video on Giz Audio. Today, the 7 Hz Eternal. Now, this one, I would say, is an IEM that just has a little bit too much to live up to. I mean, the Timeless is a legendary IEM. The best, I would say, you can grab under $250. It easily competes with IEM in the $500, $600 territory. The Timeless is just a beast of an IEM that I can see myself recommending for a very, very, very long time. Now, the reason I'm praising the Timeless so much right now is just in case 7 Hz, the company, is watching right now. Please don't hate me for what I'm about to say throughout the entire video. I love your company. I'm always rooting for your products to be good. You know, I talk about the Timeless all the time. I always push it. But the Eternal, it kind of bit off more than it can chew. It just has a little bit too much to live up to. And for a little bit more expensive than the Timeless, I wholeheartedly cannot recommend this over the Timeless. And that might sound really bad to some of you guys right now, but you know, that's comparison to the Timeless, right? The Timeless is such a unicorn that when you compare the Timeless to virtually any IEM in the same price bracket, the Timeless is just gonna demolish a lot of them. Now, before I get into all the other comparisons, I was gonna do that at the end of the video, let's jump into the sound of this first, just to describe to you guys what I get out of this one, all right? Starting off with the bass, this one has a rather nice bass. Yes, really good sub-bass focused bass leading in very smoothly to the mid-range, and also with a really nice clean separation as well between the bass and the lower mid-range, so the bass never bleeds into the mid-range in any way. Clean cut, the mid-range clarity is there, it's crystal clear, it's not veiled by the bass in any way. Love that. And also the sub-bass focus as well is really, really nice. Now, some of you guys out there might find the Eternal to lack a little bit in power, and I completely understand that because it doesn't really have a lot of mid-bass. So that thump, that slam, the bit of funness that you look for in a dynamic driver IEM, it's not really present so much in the Eternal as it is, you know, in the sub-bass, in the rumbly sub-bass region. So that might be an issue for some of you guys out there, but for me, I love my sub-bass. Sub-bass is just bread and butter for me. It makes the IEM just feel so sensationally, like, you know, rumbly, and I really like that feeling. So sub-bass all the way for me. But for those of you who like more mid-bass, this might feel a little bit underpowered. Nevertheless, it's still a well done bass with good clean separation. Good job there. Mid-range time, lower mid-range leading into just before the upper mid-range is done rather nicely. It's rather flat, neutral, and very organic sounding, if you will. The problem starts to come when it hits the upper mids. The main issue here comes a little bit later in the upper mid-range area. It is just uneven. Is peaky, a little bit too energetic in the wrong places. So vocals comes across kind of unnatural. It has energy, yes, it's forward, yes, but it's forward in the wrong area. So it comes across not as organic as you want. So this is very apparent in female vocals or male vocals that lives in the higher octave. Also instruments like the flute, the violin, the piano, a lot of instruments are affected by this. As someone who live for organic vocals, you know, I love the Yume Midnight, I love my Blessing to Dust, I love my DA Audio Oracle. All those have superbly buttery, organic mid-range that can make you cry. So for those of you like me who love that kind of mid-range, the Eternal is gonna stand out quite a bit. Now, moving on to the treble area, this has a very, to put it very lightly, tame treble. Some might even call it dark because it almost doesn't have any treble at all. It has just a little bit of treble. It's there in the background behind everything else. Like the bass is gonna overpower it, the mid-range is gonna overpower it, so the treble here is there, but it doesn't really add to the music at all, really. It doesn't add any sparkle, it doesn't add any energy. If anything, it's there, but it's really kind of not there. Because treble's job is to really add that bit of energy or to highlight some micro nuances in the song, bring forward some details, which in the case of the Eternal, it doesn't really do that. So it's there, but it's not there. Let's just put it that way. And that's the second gripe with the Eternal, right? Of course, the first one being the little bit of weird upper mid-range, and of course now the treble being kind of subpar at the same time. Just makes it sound wonky near the top end, if you will. While the low end, the bass to the lower mid-range, is pristine, like really good. It's just the top end is not done so well. And that's pretty much it for the Eternal. The biggest problem from the IEM came straight out of the tuning section. Now, when it comes to technical performance, detail, soundstage, and imaging, let's bring up my scale. This thing resolves about as well as a Starfield. I would say it's right dead middle. It would be a little bit more than a Starfield maybe if the treble was there to highlight some more nuances in the song. Then I might bump the resolution up a little bit. When it comes to soundstage and imaging, this is surprisingly pretty alright. Like it has an average soundstage, which is not to say it's super wide. I would say it's decently wide, just a little bit outside your head. But I will say that it has more of a taller, grandeur type of feel than a wide feeling when it comes to the stage. Imaging wise, is pretty competent as well. It's not pinpoint, but you get a sense of at least there's some good level of imaging in here. So average at best, but you know, like I said in most of my review, average is good in this case. Now, on to the comparison section, right? Compare this thing to the Timeless. The Timeless bass is a lot more fun. It has a lot more mid bass, so the bass on a Timeless is gonna come across very slamming, very forward, and just fun, great for EDMs, great for just any fun genre of music, right? The Eternal, more sub-bass focus, more of a smoother bass response. When it comes to the mid-range, the Timeless is very natural, organic, and beautiful mid-range. And same with the treble area. The treble on a Timeless is leaning on the a little bit too much side, but it's there, it's sparkly, it's energetic, it gets you up and going. In terms of details and resolution, also the Timeless wins pretty easily. You guys already saw from the scale. So yeah, the Timeless is the better IEM through and through in basically every category in comparison to the Eternal. Now, next one, we have the Moondrop Kato. Now with the Kato, same story with the bass here. The Kato has more fun mid bass, so it's gonna come across just more thump and more slam than the Eternal, which is more sub-bass focused. The mid-range, same story with the Timeless. The Kato has very natural and organic feeling mid-range. You guys know Moondrop does mid-range extremely well. It's like one of their best qualities when you're buying a Moondrop IEM. The mid-range is on point almost every single time. Now the treble area, although the Kato is not the most sparkliest IEM ever as well, it still has sufficient treble to bring forth a natural feeling in the high end, if you will. It's not sparkly, it's more tamed as well, but it's not as tame as the Eternal. It still has a presence, it still plays a role. Details as well, the Kato wins over the Eternal by about half a step. All right, with all of that said, you guys have probably already made up your mind for the Eternal. Now, there's one last thing left to say. This is still a very good looking IEM. Like, not gonna lie, it's one of my most favorite look in a long time. And it does have good qualities, like the bass onto the lower mid-range. That part is done well. It just needs some fixing in the top end, the upper mids, and the treble. Now, what if I tell you there is a way to fix that or to remedy it in a way, not completely fix it, but remedy it to the point where it sounds natural or sound the way you want for the most part. Yes, there is a way, and that is called EQing. Yes, EQ. Now, majority of people don't even want to touch EQ. I, for one, was one of those people. But EQing is actually not as hard as you may think. I'm not going to teach EQing in this video. Rather, I'm going to link you to CRINACLE'S video on EQing. He went through all the different stages of EQ, the simple ones, the complicated process. I really encourage all of you guys to go watch that video, get some more EQ knowledge in your head, because it's very helpful in doing little tweaks and fixes to an IEM that you may really like but might have a problem with a certain area that it has. EQing can help remedy a lot of that. So if you love the look of the Eternal, you want to use it, but you still want natural good sound from it, try EQing it to fit your profile. Then you can get natural good sound and still use a very good looking IEM.
君が笑うだけで何でもできる気がする一緒につく歌思い出は